I think we're live.
I think we might be.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Shadow Proclamation. I'm Thomas, and I'm joined, as always, by...
Paul.
And we've got lots of people in the chat already. Great to see you guys. Chem Dog, Rebecca, and Paul. Bobby Shafto.
Bobby Shafto reference already. There we go.
Yeah. Sorry to inflict that on everyone. Thomas sorting his snacks out. I don't have any snacks today, sadly. Oh, I should have thought of that. Do you have anything on the go, Paul?
No, I've literally just eaten my dinner, so moments before this.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not in snacking mode just yet.
Yeah, sure.
Good to see a few names here we recognise. Lots of people from the comments section.
Maybe as the evening goes on, I might just nip to the co-op at some point and pick up some snacks.
Yeah, I know you do have a habit of just popping off in the middle of live things.
Leaving. I'm not in reverse by intention. Let me see if I can swap us.
Are we the other? Hey, there we go.
There we go. The normal business is restored. Let us know, guys, in the chat how we're sounding, because we don't get much information about the mic levels. So if one of us is significantly louder than the other, let us know and we can probably adjust that. But hoping it will be all right. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing all right. I'm looking forward to the end of term because part of my work is working at a school. So coming up to the Easter holidays is quite nice. So yeah, that's good. You?
Nice. Yeah. Looking forward to a little Easter break. Actually, that'll be good. Maybe we should meet up, do some Doctor Who in person. Who knows?
We should, shouldn't we? We were saying actually in our last conversation that it's quite a good time for us to finish season 10 because we've pretty much got only like a week and a half now, is it, until the season 2 of the whatever it is now. Starts. So we've got New Who coming up. So what will probably happen is, I imagine we'll get back on. You and I will probably start watching some classic stuff as well, but we'll season 11 it. But we'll also be watching the new episodes as they come out and be putting that out for a while. So I imagine the classic stuff will pause very slightly for the next sort of 8 weeks or so while we go through that. But we've got plenty of things to crack on with, haven't we? I know some people sometimes say to me. I say some people, one person says to me, how far ahead are you than us? And I'm like, literally the week ahead, pretty much. Like that's often the way we are.
Occasionally we've managed to build up quite a big backlog, but I feel like this term, we've had to cancel a couple of recording sessions and stuff. So yeah, it's been pretty to the wire, but...
And life is just busy, isn't it? I'm sure everyone else finds this. Just things take over. And I said before we started this, I felt like season 10 had gone quite quickly. And then I looked back in my sort of notebook where I make the notes, and I realised that we watched episode 1 of The Three Doctors before we watched Joy to the World. So we must have started this before Christmas, but it doesn't feel like it's been that long to me.
No.
But maybe that speaks to the quality of what we've been watching. So
yeah, that is a weird thought, isn't it? Yeah, no, I'm excited to kind of revisit all of it. If anyone's new to these live streams, we basically go through each of the stories, just chat briefly about some reflections, and then we've been pooling some questions from you guys over the past few weeks on the channel and on our Discord server. So hopefully we can get into as many of those as possible. And feel free to put things in the chat if you have any corrections, comments, questions. Just feel free to bung them in there, and it's great to have you guys with us live. So should we dive in with the first story, Paul? Three Doctors?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it's a way to kick off the season, isn't it? To have a sort of special. It's that strange... I think we said at the time, it's a strange story in some ways, isn't it? Because it's kind of a season 10 or 10th anniversary special, but it's actually broadcast much closer to the 9th anniversary. I mean, I think the Three Doctors... I mean, it's hard to say how I feel about the Three Doctors, really, because there's so much I love about it. And, as Rebecca's just said, first multi-Doctor story, which is obviously sort of groundbreaking stuff and just really lovely. I mean, the chemistry between Pertwee and Troughton is sort of unmatched, really. And I think the fact that they have that sort of mini rivalry. There's that bit of hostility between them that's also quite playful, and the fact that I know that sort of came over into real life as well, into their personas when they were at conferences and things, or conventions, is quite nice. And of course, it's great to see Hartnell appear, even if it's just brief, and sort of he's not in the best of health at that stage, but absolutely fitting to have him appear after that length of time in the role. Just a shame he couldn't do a little bit more. And it's sort of, was it the first time? No, it's not the first time we've seen the Time Lords, but it's the first time we've been back, haven't we, to sort of Gallifrey really with any meaningful stuff like that, and building the lore of Gallifrey.
Yeah, Omega.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so when I think about it though, as a story, I may have said this at the time, I don't think the Three Doctors is the greatest story. Like, I mean, but when I was thinking about this earlier, and I don't know if it's that the story itself is lackluster. I'm not sure that is the issue. I think visually the Three Doctors isn't hugely exciting to look at. Like, there's this when I think of it, there's this sort of grey, silvery sort of appearance to a lot of it. You know, a lot of it's in a quarry. So there's a lot of just very washed out kind of white stone type shots. And then, you know, I think the unit headquarters set isn't particularly exciting, and even Omega's lair isn't hugely exciting in terms of what it looks like.
Yeah, and when he's like, this is what I have been able to accomplish in all these years, and you're like, brilliant.
Clearly, he's never seen changing rooms. You see what they do in an hour, mate? They just change the whole room in like an hour. Like,
yeah, I think I agree. I think the episode the story wouldn't be anywhere near as entertaining if it wasn't multi-Doctor. That's a huge part of the appeal of it, but it genuinely well written, the kind of interactions between them, and the story I think provides a good vehicle for that. It's kind of a fairly simple to grasp plot going on in the background, but yeah, kind of a bit of an excuse really to get these guys together, and then the fun is in their interaction. It's interesting here from Rebecca, was I surprised to see a multi-Doctor story? I think I did know that there was a story called The Three Doctors, so once we hit Pertwee I was kind of like, okay, at some point we're presumably going to hit this story, but it coming at the start of season 10, I was like, whoa, that's kind of surprising. I guess I wasn't expecting it this early in the show maybe, but then again I don't know how much of Pertwee's era we have left, so yeah, but I guess I kind of think of it as quite a modern thing, doing this kind of because of the 50th anniversary special and stuff, and it's been done a few times since then. I kind of think of it as a bit of a multiverse smashing together, you know, different iterations of the same character, but actually no, goes right back. So that's kind of cool to see in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think as well, like, despite the fact that, like, if it didn't have the Three Doctors in it, I don't think it would be a particularly exciting story at all. So it does really rely, like I think someone said in the comments, like, it relies on the cameos and the things like that. And I think actually the Omega stuff is nice. I really like the Time Lord sort of lore stuff, so it does have that thing in it. But I also remember, like, when I was young, like, when the stories you really wanted to see were the multi-Doctor stories. So I don't think you can underestimate sort of that sort of the pull it has just from that angle. You know, regardless of the story, it doesn't matter that the rest of the story is actually not that good. It's just nice to see them all. Like,
yeah. What did you think of the gel guards, Paul? Because yeah, they are a little bit silly, but I kind of like the integration of their aesthetic with the caves that they were walking in. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they are. I mean, yeah, they're a bit crap, aren't they? They're sort of waddling around, make that noise, you know. But I tell you though, despite the fact, I do think the production values of them are pretty high, because the actual sort of, given that the rest of the story is very drab, the actual design of their costumes and the sort of colour of the sort of reddy orangey stuff actually looks really good.
Yeah, they're sort of crystalline, aren't they?
Yeah. So I mean, the potential was there, but again, it's look at all I've achieved. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I think what they could have maybe leaned into more is having a multi-Doctor story is a great way of the Doctor kind of self-reflecting a bit more, maybe, and kind of thinking about his role in the universe. And they really played into the fun aspect of the difference in personality between Troughton and Pertwee, etc., and Hartnell. But did it lean into that more kind of existential? Oh, who are we? What does it mean to be the Doctor? I didn't get. Maybe it didn't need to do that, but that's maybe something I was hoping it could get into as a multi-Doctor story. But maybe that will come in future multi-Doctor.
Yeah, I wonder whether at this stage in the show's history, the Doctor hasn't really, if you compare it to sort of when you think about like the Matt Smith era, where the Doctor is sort of this name that's known and kind feared across the stuff of legend. I don't think we've really kind of gone down that road at this stage. And I'm not sure the classic series ever really goes that far with that kind of thing, to be honest. I don't think that's a particular spoiler, but maybe there are elements of it. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but
Hartnell Pertwee movie. Do you know what that is?
Not off the top of my head.
I'm very intrigued. Maybe we need to watch it on this channel.
Yeah, that's our reaction. But I think like we're saying, when I was just looking back over my notes, the things that really stand out are there's so much good dialogue in it. There's just the stuff with the Brigadier. He's got lots of good lines where he's kind of deeply unimpressed by the fact there's two Doctors and all the quips he makes. Troughton and Pertwee, their continual sort of things. His thing with Troughton with Joe and we're all together, Goo 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 Tube. It's a song by the Beatles. Oh, how's it go? Yes. And all that stuff. It's just they play off each other so well. So it's a real joy to watch. I think from that front.
Totally. Yeah, thanks, John G. Will Any Gentleman is the film in question. I've just looked it up. 1953. Yeah. Wow. Notable for featuring both William Hartnell and Jon Pertwee on screen together. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah. I didn't know that. That's never come across that before. Also, John's mentioned there. I like the Doctor's exile being lifted at the end. I'd kind of forgotten. Yeah, of course. So that's quite a big thing for the show as well, isn't it? After what we've had for sort of the previous three seasons.
And I kind of like how that comes about because the Time Lords are kind of like, oh man, we've got a bit of a situation here. We need the Doctor. Oh, we're going to break one of our own rules by intersecting his own time stream and having the three Doctors together. Yeah, okay, yeah, we should probably let him go.
Yeah. So it works perfectly as the place to do that, I think, doesn't it? And of course, then it allows the show to go in a new direction, back in the original direction, really. But a new direction for the Pertwee era, which is quite refreshing.
Yes, yeah, totally. And perhaps one of the funniest, maybe not necessarily for the best reasons, but one of the funniest lines at the end of a Doctor Who story.
Oh yeah. Is that you just say like, you never believe me, woman.
Yeah.
Tea on
dinner already.
Yeah, dinner ready. Yeah.
But I kind of like that, just the sense of this big kind of cataclysmic cosmic event happens, and then you just show a member of the public kind of going home, and it's like just got to continue with ordinary life.
Yeah.
So not the best story, but very fun and like so much value added by the interaction between the Doctors, and just a great way to kick off the season.
And lovely to see like Hartnell just even though there's sort of a tinge with sort of sadness to the fact that he's unwell and it's the last kind of thing he does. It's just appropriate for him to be there, really, and just given what he put into motion, and the fact we're still here now, even more. I mean, 10 years must have seemed like a good a good innings at that stage. But here we are,
Yeah.
sort of 65 or where we are now.
Yeah.
Oh no, just over 60, aren't we? Not quite 65 yet.
I was going to say, I was like, doesn't feel that long ago since we were watching the 60 specials. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, well, shall we go on to the second story, Carnival of Monsters?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what's some of your reminiscences of this one?
I thought it was a rip-roaring story, actually. It's throwing so much at it, isn't it? Because you've got the concept of, okay, this kind of alien planet with customs, and then you've got this kind of science fair piece of apparatus that has a mini world in it with characters that's kind of stuck in a time loop, and the Doctor and Joe enter into this device and kind of get stuck. And then the Doctor gets out, and then it's like, is Joe going to be trapped there? It's like it's doing so much, like so many new concepts, and but well executed. It felt like I believed it, you know. I believed the creatures. What are they called again? The Drashigs.
The Drashigs, yeah.
Yeah, very well done with that kind of swampy environment. Yeah, I thought it was incredibly inventive and just a lot of fun. And the interaction between, what was his name, the kind of circus man and his accomplice.
Yeah, oh gosh, can't remember their names now. But
yeah, what did you make of Carnival of Monsters?
yeah, I mean, I think I just agree with all that as well. It's this sort of, as the name sort of says as well, it has this kind of bright, colourful thing. I always think of the guy in his outfit, you know, the sort of carnival guy himself. Shurna was the lady, wasn't it? And Vorg, that's it. Yes, well done, James Fitzpatrick there.
Yes.
So I often think of Vorg when I think of this story. I think of that quite colourful look. But yeah, you've got the stuff on the ship, you've got the Drashigs, you've got the stuff on the planet itself. And yeah, I think it works really well. The idea of them being inside the machine and shrunk down, and that the Doctor's they've landed inside it at the beginning, and that big, I mean, you get the cliffhanger with the hand, don't you, and stuff. And I mean, I think the only thing really we ever picked up particularly negative about it was just the very lackluster masks for the sort of grunts who are like the baggage claim people. It looks like they just couldn't be bothered. I mean, just so like they couldn't be bothered. Like they just completely went, stuff this. We haven't got any budget. We'll just put
Which
this
is
on.
kind of weird because the rest of the episode was the rest of the story was so high concept, and so many had like little details they had to build. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a bit strange. But and it's also got one of my, I don't know why it sticks in my head. I think it's in the first episode when Doctor and Joe land on the boat, and Joe's like, Doctor, what's that? And then they're like, oh, it's chickens. But they're literally like 5 foot away. Like she's been, like, oh, it's just a chicken. Like she couldn't see what it was. Like
maybe Joe Grant had never seen a chicken before that point.
Only eggs.
I was speaking to a colleague today, and he said that he has a recurring nightmare of chicken nuggets getting stuck in his throat. Which, sorry, I shouldn't laugh because it's apparently quite traumatic, but it's weirdly specific, isn't it?
It is oddly specific.
Like large chicken nuggets. Yeah, I agree with Paul. Peep Show, what a genius title. Yeah, that makes complete sense. I wonder why they changed it. I mean, Carnival of Monsters is kind of intriguing, isn't it? But yeah, Peep Show kind of fits into that's the kind of moral, one of the moral quandaries it's exploring, isn't it? That I think Rebecca raised, that this idea of technology in the future and advanced civilizations and entertainment and stuff. But there's something very voyeuristic about this device, that it has actual kind of sentient beings trapped inside it, and people are just kind of looking in, and you're like, if we could do that, should we do that? Probably not. Like, that's very morally questionable.
Yeah, and actually what John G has mentioned there, I think we mentioned that at the end of the story, that the Doctor just sort of kind of lets Vorg off at the end, despite the fact he'd said that he'd campaigned to the Time Lords to have these things banned and stuff like that. So that does feel like a slightly odd ending there. But yeah, it is, like you say, it's raising those issues. As people have said about Peep Show, I think Peep Show, because it was actually the title that was originally, or I don't know if it was an original title or it was suggested as a title, but someone like Barry Letts or someone on the production team basically said, no, we can't call it that because of it has that connotation of,
I see,
being something a bit more sexual or like deviant, like.
Right. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And there is now another show called Peep Show, which is
exactly. Very, very hard to distinguish the two. Obviously, they're quite similar shows.
Yeah.
In fairness, the Mitchell and Webb have been in Doctor Who.
Oh yes, they have. Haven't they? Remind me which.
I think they were the voices of two robots in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm sick of these motherfudging dinosaurs. No, I think that's a different. That was something else.
Okay. Oh yeah, I think you mentioned this at the time that Katie Manning was doing chicken sounds.
Yes, I think you listened to it. Yeah, amazing for someone who'd never seen a chicken. Really, no.
Yeah, totally. So that was a fun one. I mean, yeah. Really,
and you've got to think as well, that's the first, that's the thing they chose to do first, having the Doctor now being able to travel again. So obviously we've been earthbound right up to this point, give or take one or two stories. But this is kind of them going, oh, we can go anywhere now, we can do something else. So it's interesting that they've, we've landed on an alien planet, but we've also got these other little layers of sort of a thing within a thing, going on. It's not just one kind of setting. So it's nice that they feel they had that opportunity to just do something different from what they've been doing for the last 3 seasons, really. Yeah. Okay. Well, shall we move on to Frontier in Space? Yeah. What did you think of this one? I think Frontier in Space is one of those stories for me that's like the another sort of sleeper story. There's ones where I'm coming into it thinking like, oh, I'm hoping it's all right. I have memories of it being sort of enjoyable, but again, with a lot of 6-parters, you always kind of think, oh, is this going to drag near the end at some point? But I think it's actually a great story, and it held my attention for all 6 episodes. I think, as Paul Richards just said, the Draconians is such a great design. We talked about that at the time. Yeah. Pertwee had talked about the sort of having the human chin and things like that. They work really well. And sort of the design, not just of the masks, but the sort of, do we say sort of like samurai-esque kind of, at least sort of Eastern inspired kind of look of some of the things as well. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there, and I kind of seeing the Ogrons back again. I think the Ogrons are another enemy sort of that are sort of underused and could have been not the sleeper story where I fell asleep, but they're another sort of villain that has potential to be reused in some way in the modern era, just like the Draconians. And of course, it does that thing where you've got I think we may have said at the time, it reminded me a little bit of Keys of Marinus. In the location, moving from location to location, like we're on a spaceship for this episode, we're on this Earth's kind of setting for this one, we're on the Ogron planet, we're on the lunar penal colony, that's really good. And of course, Delgado. Yeah, absolutely. His last story, yeah. I mean, so what was your take on it? Yeah, I would echo everything you said. I especially enjoyed actually some of the space-based stuff. So when they're on the ship, isn't there an entire episode pretty much with just the Doctor, the Master, and Joe on the ship? Yeah, I think so. Like largely. Yeah, largely with the Doctor and Joe kind of in this cage, but the Doctor gets out and does this little spacewalk. And even though you could see the wires at points, like it was pretty well done, I thought, actually. I thought it looked good. And there's something about this kind of lonely voyage, like in deep space, with these characters stuck together. And as I think someone pointed out, Rebecca said, I love
Joe and the Master's relationship in this episode. There is a sense that this three have been through a lot together, and there's some kind of there's history there, isn't there? And they've just developed that really nicely in the show, and this sense that obviously the Master is a horrific character in a lot of ways in terms of his motives and stuff, but there's a fondness between him and the Doctor, which is kind of undeniable, isn't there? And so I thought it was brilliant, and as you say, the Draconians looks great. I love the idea of the deception with the Ogrons. Was it the Ogrons being made to appear as Draconians?
And that was it, wasn't it? And vice versa for the humans, wasn't it? I think they the Draconians saw humans and humans saw Draconians.
And I think we commented as well, maybe a more minor detail, but a lot of the stuff on Earth, just great choices of location, or like modern architecture for the president's building and that kind of thing. These big concrete structures that just felt like they had that futuristic look. I don't know, kind of Clockwork Orange-esque. I don't know.
Yeah, and that slightly brutal look as well.
Yeah.
Some of that architecture of that kind of area has there. I think as well, talking about the Master Joe Doctor relationship, there is something quite different about that, isn't there? That I wonder whether they were developing that to bring that out in this kind of next season. That obviously never happened. This story, the final game, where the Doctor and the Master are supposed to be revealed as brothers, and the Master sacrifices himself for the Doctor, rather than that, because there is a sort of Holmes Moriarty type thing going on, isn't there? And actually, as Rebecca said there about, the relationship they had off screen, I mean, I didn't know they'd found out about it from a newspaper stand. That's pretty terrible, but I think I read that, and someone might put it in the comments on one of the stories, that in the Green Death, when they're filming Joe's leaving scene, that itself was only sort of about 6 days after they'd found out Roger Delgado had died. So I think for them it was quite a tough thing anyway, because I think they felt like everything was sort of, the little group they'd had was being dismantled. Obviously Delgado had passed away and Katie Manning's moving on, and so yeah, I mean, it's a real tragedy, really. I mean, who knows that? I mean, in the sense, it's a tragedy that we didn't get that ending for Delgado. Obviously, in terms of the character of the Master, bless you. Yeah. If the story had finished in the way they had intended it to, I don't know whether we would still have the character of the Master, or whether it would have been just seen as a character who's finished and that's the end of the story. But I wonder, because he was left in this situation where, really he just disappears, it allows them to bring him back at a later stage. So, there's, would we have had what we've got? Maybe not, but, obviously that doesn't take away from the tragedy of Delgado's sort of very untimely death.
Yeah, and we were reflecting after that story, weren't we, how he just absolutely smashed that role, and like just the delivery of all the lines, the way his interactions with Pertwee, you really do buy it, don't you? It didn't feel pantomime as well, which it could have done. It's a fun role. It is slightly over the top at times, and that's kind of what's fun about it. It's kind of a proper villain, but that nice balance of kind of not too over the top. I thought it was really well handled. Yeah, no,
I'd agree. He does just knock it out of the park every time, and he sort of sets the benchmark, therefore, for all Masters to follow.
Yes, the benchmark for all Masters to follow. Yeah, the Master.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, then we had, teased at the end of this story, the Daleks showed up, and I was like, yes.
Yes, of course, and that's that's worth mentioning in itself, isn't it? The idea that this is kind of it's supposedly sort of one long story, isn't it? Although they don't really completely relating to each other. They just tie up at the end. So yeah, Planet of the Daleks. I think I had the most fun watching this story. More than any other, and I think for me that's a lot of that is tied up in the nostalgia of this being a story that I'd seen as a child and watched a number of times. But I think it's actually I was concerned as I came into it a little bit again that I'd have this memory of it and then I'd watch it and be like, oh, it's not actually that good on reflection. But I think it is a really strong Dalek story. I mean, it's supposed to be like a bit of a best of, isn't it? Where they take a bit from this and it's inspired by that Dalek story and stuff. And I think actually, like I think you said in the review, even though it borrows heavily from that first Dalek story, you felt the first Dalek story isn't actually that strong in comparison. And I think there's lots of stuff going on. The Thals in this are great. All the different characters you've got of sort of Weber and Lartep and I can't remember what they're called, Marip, I don't know. They're all good. But there was a lot of
Bob.
There was Bob the Thal. But there was a lot of good character development, wasn't there? That each Thal was sort of a distinctive person and had a sort of slightly different role. You had sort of the leader, and then you had sort of the one who was a bit of a rebel and didn't think they were doing the right thing, and you had the sort of the love relationship, the guy who was nervous but did the right thing every time. And there's really
conflict between them as well, like disagreements, leadership disputes.
Yeah, and some really interesting ideas, weren't there, about are we less likely to succeed now we feel we can get away? That stuff. So there was a lot more going on than I remembered, really, and you've got the nice jungle, you've got the ice tunnels, you've got loads of Daleks, you've got the really nice Supreme Dalek, or Dalek Supreme. Supreme Dalek or Dalek Supreme. I'm not sure which one it is. I think it changes throughout the classic era. That at some point there's a Supreme Dalek and there's the Dalek Supreme, but the Dalek Supreme now just makes me think of like some kind of like ice cream or something. I don't know, like one Dalek Supreme, please. Like, you want a flake in that? I don't know. Like
that was a cool Dalek design. Yeah, undeniably the Supreme. Whether it was Dalek Supreme or Supreme Dalek, it was a supreme design. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it as well, and obviously I haven't seen any of the classic era before we've done this experiment, so I was completely new to it, so I didn't necessarily have the nostalgia element going in. I just thought it worked really well as a kind of quite claustrophobic Dalek story. I remember seeing some interview around the modern era. I can't remember who it was. It might have been an actor or RTD or someone, but just saying what's scary about the Daleks is they go at a walking pace, but when you're running away from them, they always just seem to be just round the corner. Corridor. In this sense that you can run as fast as you want, but they always seem to be just behind. And I thought you really got a sense of that here, didn't you?
It's like Mario Kart. You can
exactly. They
keep never go away.
They keep using the bullet bills, or the gold mushrooms. But so several set pieces stood out to me. The escape via the cooling ducts while the fluid was kind of approaching behind them, the Thals. That was really believable, and it just looked great. The shots looking down these shafts with the coolant coming towards the camera. I think that's where we introduced the
best use of a shaft in Doctor Who so far.
Yeah,
best shaft-related episode we've had in a while.
Undeniably, yeah. And though it was slightly, pushed the realms of what you could believe, the Doctor helping them escape by building a hot air balloon. I loved it. It was just so tense as the Daleks were trying to get into the room and they're waiting for this thing to inflate and it's hopefully going to be able to lift all of them.
Yeah.
I just thought that was... And then before it takes off, the Doctor looks through the window and sees the whole multitude of Daleks waiting, kind of frozen. I was like, this is doing so much. And so, I did get that sense, and I think I'd still say it now, that it almost felt like Terry Nation was doing with this story what he'd maybe wanted to do before, but now the show is big enough and he has the capability of doing something on this scale. So it felt to me like a better executed version of the first Dalek story, but not a rehash, like with plenty of new stuff in there. But it was almost like he'd come at it with, I'm going to give this Dalek story everything, and it's going to be a lot of fun and tense. I just thought very well directed. Just cinematic. I believe the tension of you're trying to escape from these Daleks. And it's simple idea, isn't it? Just got to get away from them.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's not there's not a particularly clever idea behind it. It's just a good idea, well executed. And I think, Terry Nation has come in for a lot of criticism, I think, with this story. People saying it being a rehash. But a number of people, as people pointing out in the comments, this whole 10th season has a lot of callbacks to stuff. There's intentionally supposed to be callbacks because it's this season 10 kind of anniversary season. But actually, I just don't think it's that justified, because I do think it's actually a really strong Dalek story. Even if he does borrow and reference, that's okay. I think it's a top tier story for me.
And completely agree. Paul Richards, the Doctor's advice about not glamorizing war was terrific. Yeah, you mentioned this at the time as well, Paul. The line that the Doctor gives to the Thals about, when you tell when you return to your planet and you tell your people about what you've been through, be honest about the losses and the tragedies. Don't glamorize it. Don't make people want to go to war. It's like it should be seen as a last resort kind of thing. I thought that was really interesting. You got the sense that the Doctor was speaking from experience there, and maybe he himself needs to hear this message as he's traveling around and saving people from all sorts of battles. It'd be easy for the Doctor to tell that in a glamorous way, wouldn't it? But he needs to hold on to the fact that a lot of people die in all these adventures he goes on. So,
yeah, that's true. If you'd never come here, would any of these people have died? As Nurse Redfern says. Yes, I also like that the story ends with the Daleks. They say, we've been delayed, not defeated. I really like this. I think the classic series, again, when you've got... What it does better than the modern era is that the modern era often now with the Daleks, it feels a bit like every time the Daleks appear, these are the last Daleks in the universe, and then they're all wiped out. And then, there's always... the stakes are so high, whereas I quite like this, that, actually they're able just to be there, and this part of their plan has been scuppered a bit, but of course the Daleks still go on. You get a little bit of that at the end of sort of Victory of the Daleks, which I guess is a nice little callback to things like this. But I think it feels better than having the Daleks being a colossal universal threat every time they appear.
Yes, and being totally annihilated at the end. Yeah, that's interesting. Delayed but not defeated. That's quite chilling, isn't it? You just get a sense of the relentlessness of the Daleks. It's like they can keep doing this. They're not going to get bored. Or they're just going to thaw this. Discouraged.
They're just they'll thaw these Daleks out over time and crack on again. It's like, okay.
And that was well done. That model shot, of all the toy Daleks beginning to move as they were sort of thawing, and they begin to jiggle. And I don't know how they did it with magnets or something, or just literally.
Well, you mentioned magnets
that they were on.
Yeah, you mentioned magnets at the time. I think someone in the comments said they might have just. I think they were just the toy Daleks, and you get in a shop, and I think they just wound them up, stuck them on the thing and let them move. I don't know,
yeah.
So it's not even as deep as that. But yeah, you got to think about magnets, haven't you? After the Space Pirates, you're like.
If you want me to talk about the Space Pirates ship again, I'd be very happy to. Yeah, I kind of love that though. That in order to make an episode of classic Doctor Who, they were like, "What do we? You know what we need to do? We need to buy some toy Daleks.
We need to buy our own merchandise. That's what we had to do.
Wind them up, and set them go. That's just so cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yet you kind of actually got a slight throwback to that in Joy to the World with the Doctor having loads of toy TARDISes on his
Oh yeah, of course.
mantelpiece, and being like, you can just get these online. I don't know why.
I like as well in this story, what I've forgotten right near the beginning is, of course, the Doctor's just been sort of injured after Frontier in Space, and you get this bit set in the TARDIS with Joe talking into a tape, forgetting to turn the tape on by the look of it, but just talking into the cassette. And you've got the Doctor, you get a bit more TARDIS, don't you? Sort of they get the pull-out bed, and then the Doctor's got the oxygen tanks and stuff like that. I think that works. And there's some really good CSO as well. We said about like the invisibility stuff.
The floating bowl.
Floating bowl, yeah. I think there's loads of good stuff in this story. The jungle, the plants, kind of, as someone said earlier, the squirting plants,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Like, I think I said it at the time, the jungle felt kind of, teeming with creepy crawlies, and you just get that sense when you're in an actual jungle that the whole thing is alive, and that's hard to pull off on camera, but I thought it was really well done here.
But the sound design really helps that as well, that there's this constant sound in the background of sort of the animals, the environment and stuff that although it kind of is reused from other things, it's just a great little soundscape they put together, and it just totally sells it. So
yeah. No,
really.
so a real strong story, that one, and a strong of all the Dalek stories we've seen of the classic era so far. I'd put that very highly. I think that was very entertaining. Which brings us to the finale, the Green Death.
Yes. Well, I mean, we're sort of fresh off the back of this, aren't we? As are most people who've, if you've been keeping up, you've probably seen our review about this only in the last couple of weeks. So
I think the last episode, our reaction to it came out yesterday, actually.
Oh right, yeah, that late, yeah.
We laughed and then we cried.
Yeah. Yes.
I am sorry for how much we lost it in that final episode. It's just
but we got
on that train of thought. It was just too.
We
funny.
pulled it back together. Like as soon as things started to get serious, we knew we sensed that we read the room. I feel
because you must have known that this was a pretty
I knew it was
episode.
Yeah,
so.
I mean I knew it was coming, but also I don't think don't have loads of good solid memories of it. So I didn't know how quickly it suddenly went into that from where we were. So there was a bit of a kind of, we're still laughing about toilet humour, and then suddenly, Joe's leaving. But yeah, I mean, and I think the way you edited that as well was that you played it, you mostly through, didn't you?
Yeah.
And we are just sitting, it's a bit like when Susan left, basically, you know that it's good because you're sitting there not really saying anything.
Yeah, the full commentary track for that episode probably doesn't include too much extra.
Just silence.
Sorry about that.
Irreverent moments like that. But yeah, no, I think this is a great story, and as I said, it's one of those stories that has obviously lodged itself in people's minds as kind of the one with the maggots, the big maggots or giant maggots. People still sort of reference that, well, they did at least, sort of, even sort of in the 90s and stuff. People have these memories of it, so it's got this visual thing that is lodged in people's heads. And of course, we were saying, and those ideas that seem quite modern to us, the AI kind of thing, the sentient computer that takes over and things like that, it feels very relevant given where we are today. I saw something the other day, and I don't know if this is real, but it was like someone had got two AI things on different, like one on a phone, one on a tablet, and they got them to start talking to each other. And then one of them said, I think you might be an AI thing. It would be better if we communicate in this other language. And they both agreed. And then they just started making noises at each other. And I was like, this is the end. We're doomed. We're absolutely doomed. They're talking to each other now in their own language. Like, it's all over, quite frankly. Like,
that's terrifying. That is really terrible. I was shown a video of a robot like stacking shelves. And then it just keels over, and people called the video like "Robot Commits Suicide." Like it had it.
It's like they'd been working this job for so long, you couldn't take it anymore. It's so realistically human. It's just fed up with working.
I don't think that is what I think. I think it just failed at that point. But yeah, there's all sorts of, interesting and quite disturbing discussions to be had around AI. But and I guess the more obvious sort of commentary the story's doing is to do with the environment, isn't it? And there's this chemical being dumped down the mines and growing these abnormally large toxic maggots. But I thought it was nicely done. I mean, yeah, Welsh stereotypes aside, you kind of believed that community, didn't you? And it felt like it felt like an actual mine because it was.
I think it was a mine,
for a
yeah.
lot of it. So it had a kind of an air of authenticity to it, which I thought has always been a strong feature of those unit stories that have been set in England in actual location. It was kind of a return to that, wasn't it? A more sort of series, what would you say, series 80 feel.
And a few people mentioned that because we hadn't seen any of Unit since the Three Doctors.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season, and I mean, someone said we hadn't seen Mike Yates since the Time Monster. I think at the end of this previous season.
Wow.
But yeah, I think it goes back. It's kind of ticking all those kind of classic Pertwee boxes of sort of the units, family, the location shooting, all those things. That earthbound threat that feels like it's the quintessential Pertwee kind of thing. So, it's a strong story from that point of view there.
Totally. Maggots. My friend had maggot therapy to treat a wound. I refused to visit him till they'd gone. Yeah. I've heard they're very cleansing apparently, but
yeah, I have heard that. Like, I don't think I'd want maggots packed into any wounds I had, to be honest, though, but each to their own. This
is good. GT, it's kind of good seeing you two talk without annoying episodes getting in the way.
I mean, I think when we watch the episodes, it's just background, isn't it? Really, mostly, it's just for us to have it's just a vehicle for us.
It's an opportunity for us to hang out, basically. Yeah.
But I mean, I think the Green Death. I mean, it's a really good story, but I think it is, of course, it's those last sort of 5-6 minutes. If it's
gives
as long
it
as
the
that.
Emotional punch.
Yeah, and it's so nice that the character Joe is given that bit more time. I think her departure is probably one of, if not the best handled departure we've had so far.
Yeah,
and wonderfully kind of understated and underplayed by both her and Pertwee himself. I think, like we said earlier, with the knowledge as well that they've just discovered about Roger Delgado's passing. Obviously, their working relationship that they've had for the last sort of 3 seasons, which is probably the best part of 3 years or so, is kind of coming to an end. There's an end for the character, but there's an end for them in real life as well, and I think that kind of comes across, and it's played really nicely. And even just it's the little shots, isn't it, of, like you said, the Doctor drinking the toast by himself, the little close-ups on his face when he walks out to Bessie and sits down for a moment, the driving off into the distance. I think there's a shot of Jo when she's dancing with Cliff, just up close in her face where she's sort of gazing sort of a little bit, obviously just thinking about this relationship coming to an end. I just think it's a really, really well done moment. And I think their relationship is, I can't remember if we said this at the end of the last episode or whether it was after we'd finished recording, that there's almost a sort of like a father-daughter relationship there, because some people compared it to sort of the Susan granddaughter thing, but for me it feels a bit more parent and child, particularly with almost the wedding is almost like who takes this woman kind of, I know you don't get the wedding, but it's like she's going off to be married, and
you can imagine the Doctor walking her down the aisle, can't you?
Yeah, like father of the bride type kind of figure almost, Yeah, so I think it's just a great ending, and really nice for Jo to have that as well.
Yeah. And I think we both agreed at the time of watching it that it kind of laid the groundwork for the modern era companion departures. And actually, Rebecca commented on our Patreon. She said, "What you said about this laying the groundwork for the modern era is true." Russell did a special commentary for this episode with Katie Manning, where he said this was a huge inspiration for him. So yeah, I mean, it's not that the previous companion departures in the show hadn't had some degree of emotion in, especially Susan's one, but there was something
Dodo.
about and Dodo, of course. How could we forget? But there was just something about this, the beats of it, that all you've mentioned, you know, the Doctor doing the toast on his own, and then that shot of him driving off on his own, the sense of he's going back to life alone in the TARDIS once again, kind of very bittersweet. It almost feels like every companion in departure in the modern era is that now, doesn't it? So it's kind of cool to see the groundwork of that being laid in the classic era.
Yeah, and I think as well, I think Jo is another one of those characters who has there's a lot of character development there, really.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd realised before how the character does develop. I think because it's when you watch it all in order and you watch it relatively close together, you notice it perhaps more than you do having watched, you know, an episode here, a story here, from this era, from that era, in random orders. But you think back to when she came in at sort of Terror of the Autons, and she was quite this sort of dappy figure, wasn't she? Who's a bit, you know, dippy, and she doesn't really know what she's doing, and she makes lots of mistakes. And the Doctor's is it her that the Doctor called a ham-fisted bun vendor, or was that or was that the Master? But he definitely,
I can't remember.
I think he said the Master was an unimaginative plodder. So anyway, he at the beginning the Doctor's not hugely keen on Jo. And she comes, and she isn't that good in that first season, I don't think. Not there's anything wrong with Katie Manning's performance. I just mean that the character is just a bit annoying. She's not this kind of competent figure, and the relationship isn't there, is it? Because the Doctor's pretty keen just to disappear, isn't he, as quickly as he can, and dump them, and he tries to do it a few times. But by this season, particularly from sort of the Three Doctors onwards, we noted a few times, didn't we, that that their relationship had really blossomed and there was a real closeness and warmth between them. Totally. And she's much more competent as well. I think in lots of stories, Jo has more to do. And
what's nice is the Green Death makes a kind of references that, doesn't it? Because it's the Doctor kind of says to her at one point, maybe he'll make a scientist of you yet, or something.
Yes, yeah.
And it's kind of a reference to the fact that she... What's this?
I just look at the comments. I'm pretty sure he says ham-fisted bun vendor, and that's what I said, not bum vendor, honestly. A ham-fisted bum vendor. I don't even know what that means.
bit of an insult, isn't it? So yeah, a couple of interesting...
Maybe a coded reference to Pertwee's Burgers. That's true. I remember because he had a burger shop, didn't he? We talked about this. Jon Pertwee's Burger Shop on some high street somewhere. Oh,
yeah.
Dear.
This is a good point from John G. Cliff was deliberately designed to be a Doctor-like figure to make it credible that Jo would fall for him. And then, yeah, the Doctor is a father-like figure and not ever someone who would try it and get it off with someone. Yeah, I think that's interesting. There's a kind of maturity to Pertwee's Doctor, where he would never have a romantic relationship with a companion. It just wouldn't make sense with his character at all. And arguably that should have been maintained for all the Doctors. But yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it?
Someone asked us in one of the questions that was submitted, like, where would we place Jo in sort of the pantheon of companions we've seen so far?
Yeah. Pretty high, I would say.
Yeah?
Yeah, like, I'm trying to think. some highlights for me have been Vicky, Zoe, yeah,
Ian and
Jamie,
Barbara.
Ian and Barbara, of course. Yeah, Dodo,
Katerina.
Katerina. That's my favourite companion.
I'm sorry, this comment section has just evolved into discussions. Bums, burgers, and baps. That's all I'm seeing here now. Yeah, no, I would really rank Joe, and I'm really glad I do, because when Joe first appeared, like when we started watching it in the beginning of season 8, I think of Joe as being sort of the quintessential Pertwee companion, and she's a big figure in the show, and you kind of get that sense anyway, even if you've not watched the classic era, because you know that she's in Sarah Jane Adventures and she's come back for things. They've obviously got Katie Manning in, so she has a place. Like nobody's been like, oh, should we get Katerina into Sarah Jane Adventures? That kind of thing. But
well, she died, didn't she?
I think she may have died, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. But the development of the character over the 3 seasons, I think, makes her worthy of being right up there with some of the best companions. And the relationship she has with the Doctor, I think, is just really lovely. So I think, yeah, definitely up there. I've never actually sort of really sat down and thought about, like, who would I really put, at the top, and then in a rank order. But she's definitely got to be up there near the top somewhere.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, great balance of, on the one hand, being very human, very relatable, the audience's way into the Doctor's crazy way of life, but also, like, develop some. She has some quite heroic moments of her own. I think back to the Demons. Oh, I don't know why I forgot the name for a while there, but yeah, she has some quite strong moments at the end of those stories, like standing up for the Doctor, or kind of offering herself in a way, like very brave. So yeah, very believable, but also does some pretty extraordinary things. I thought, yeah, very strong companion.
Sorry, I'm just reading the comments about Katerina ends up hanging onto the TARDIS. Giant Katerina in RTD series. She's the big bad of season 2.
Sutek is
Here you
actually
go.
Katerina.
I'm calling it now. Mrs. Flood is Katerina. No.
You left me all those years ago. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
dear me.
Do we have any other
I'm just looking through the questions we had here.
Yeah.
We've sort of started I guess you touched on this. Favourite Joe parts in the season for 10th season. I think that means in the show, like
favourite Joe parts in
Joe parts. Like, probably not. They probably don't mean like her arm. Like.
Sorry, the DW transcript says ham-fisted bungler.
I'm sure he says bun vendor. I'm sure. I think someone's... when someone's transcribing something and they go, this can't be right, I'll just put this in instead. That must be what happened.
Oh.
We'll have to revisit this, I feel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ham-fisted bun vendor is a phrase often used as a humorous insult, meaning someone who is clumsy, inept, or heavy-handed in their actions. Thanks, Google AI overview. Here's a more detailed explanation. Ham-fisted. This adjective describes someone who is clumsy or lacks dexterity. Bun vendor. This refers to someone who sells buns, a common and seemingly simple occupation. The combination, by combining ham-fisted with bun vendor, this phrase creates a humorous and somewhat absurd image of someone who is clumsy and inept, even in a simple task like selling buns.
Was that explanation put together by AI by any chance?
It was.
Like, See, this is worrying.
It says it's a classic insult often associated with the Third Doctor from the British science fiction TV series Doctor Who.
There you go, you see. There you go.
Sorry, that was a bit of a detour. What was the question? Favourite Joe parts? Yeah, I think a lot of my, now this is no criticism of her performance in this season, but a lot of my overall Joe highlights are from the previous seasons, actually, like Demons and Time Monster, where she kind of steps in to do that thing with the TARDIS that potentially is going to cost all of them their lives, but it's like self-sacrificial. I think in this season, the ending is an obvious highlight. Just very well done. You believe that. I think also I enjoyed the bits she had to do in Planet of the Daleks, because there's quite a lot. She spends quite a lot of time in that story alone, trying to get to know this pretty terrifying rainforest and these invisible creatures and stuff. And the Doctor being incapacitated, I thought she carried a lot of that. So that was probably a highlight for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, just think about this season. It's probably, obviously the last moments are a real standout. And I think, the Planet of the Daleks, I think, is another one, because she does get a lot in that, particularly in that first episode. There's a lot for her to do, isn't there, where the Doctor's incapacitated, and she's going outside and having to deal with all the things she's coming face to face with. And the Doctor and her are separated for quite a while on that part as well, I think. So, probably something in Planet of the Daleks, I think, will probably be up there. But I mean, it's hard to top the leaving scene, really, I think, if you're just thinking season 10 alone. So. But yeah, just great to see how she's grown. Katerina and Sutek hanging out.
This is a great concept. It's like, think about across all of Doctor Who history, what are all of the things that have been cast out of the TARDIS, and imagine that all of them have survived and have all been clinging on at some point.
Salamander, enemy of the world. He got thrown out the TARDIS, didn't he? He's clinging on.
And the Human Nature and Family of Blood, he like casts out.
The mother, is it? Into
the mother.
Yeah. So this is what we're heading for. It's going to be like a whole pantheon of big bads at the end. And behind all of it will be Colin.
Because he said, I must find Salamander.
So they laid the groundwork for it. There you go. It's just the ridiculousness of this.
Hiding in the toilets.
Pure nonsense. Pure nonsense is what it is. So one of the questions we had was, did we miss the unit and present day Earthbound stories? Given that we had a change of direction. I know we had a few in here, but... Yeah.
Yes and no, I would say. I love them, and I think they work really well for seasons 7 and 8. I really love that consistency of getting to know the unit team and being Earthbound. But I think actually taking a bit of a departure from that, doing a bit more galaxy trotting, actually made the Green Death work better for me, because it was a sense of the Doctor had been apart from Briggs for a while, and then you got to have the kind of fun interaction of him coming back and them kind of, catching up in a sense. I think taking breaks from it, switching it up, I think does the show a good service. I think if season 10 had been another entire season of Earthbound unit stories, I might have struggled with it. But what about you?
I mean, I don't think I particularly missed it. I think it's always nice when they come back, though. Yeah. There's a familiarity about it. It's like I said, location shooting, quintessential Pertwee stuff, unit family. So I think that's always the case. So I like having them back. And it was good to see the Brigadier and Benton and Yates, who are the sort of the real core characters there. The grannies of Vortis.
That's genius.
I mean, I've got a feel. The way the series is going at the moment, I feel they really should just get us in to write this Just us and people in the comments section. If we got this in the writers' room, I think we'd be back on track. But
I think one sort of dream I have for this channel at some point is that we do a kind of a fan-written episode of Doctor Who. However we make it, we might have to use AI to animate it or something. But or even if it's just the story concept, I reckon we could come up with something quite interesting. Yeah, the Grannies of Vortis. That's a great idea.
let's just bookmark Rebecca's question for a moment from now about classic. Let's bookmark that for a second. Just keeping on with this season for a moment. Another question was about Frontier in Space. It says, Frontier in Space is for me a curious beast as it reflects a future Earth, which has so far in the series been rather neglected. Has been a rather neglected landing for our TARDIS friends. Why do you think futuristic stories so far have concentrated on being told in outer space rather than on Earth itself, with the exceptions being Dalek Invasion Earth and Seeds of Death? Any thoughts on why do you think futuristic Earth has been sort of neglected? I mean, I it's my fault for not reading the question properly, but I initially thought, well, I think in the Pertwee era, when they finally get into space, it's to have a contrast with what we've had over at the Earth anyway. So you don't want to spend too much time. I guess Day of the Daleks touches on a future Earth as well, doesn't it? But there isn't loads, is there? Whereas Russ T Davies, sort of his era was much more. Originally, particularly that first season, everything's about Earth, isn't it?
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or form, and even the future things have to be humans and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think in the Pertwee era, I can understand why they would have gone a different direction and avoided Earth for the futuristic space settings. But I don't know so much before that.
It's a really interesting. I wonder if they were partly cautious about continuity. I don't think now in the modern era they care a lot of the time. It's like we'll go to a random point in the future and there's some colony on Neptune, but we haven't really thought about a human colony, but we haven't really thought about how that relates to other, future colonies that we've set up. I wonder if at this point in the show they were thinking, okay, if we keep setting it in the future on Earth, we've got to kind of try and think about how those futures relate to each other and like map out the history of, what's going to happen to each of these civilizations, so that if we say the Doctor's going 100 years into the future on Earth, this is what it's got to look like. This has got to be the political situation and stuff. I don't know if whereas you kind of have the freedom of if you go to a different planet, you can kind of do what you want because you can just say, well, this is the way things are on that planet sort of thing. I don't know if that was partly what was going around in their head.
It's possible, isn't it? And I think a few people are mentioning there, like things like where is it now? Enemy of the World is a futuristic Earth. There might be more than you realise, I think, perhaps. You know, maybe they're just not always as obvious in our minds. But though it is interesting, who here said, Mark176, Pertwee always said, oh no, sorry, but that is a good comment, Mark176. Pertwee did prefer the Earthbound stories. Someone said, did you notice, above that, James A. Fitzpatrick, did you notice that Pertwee doesn't travel into past history much? And that is a noticeable departure, isn't it? I say noticeable, I hadn't particularly noticed. But when you think back to the seasons before, where we had, for a long time, there would often be just historical stories, which weren't even sci-fi, really. It was just, they went back to a time, which has obviously gone completely, but we haven't even really had anything set in the past with a sci-fi element, have we? I don't think.
That's a good point.
I guess because for a long time you couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, we've kind of had echoes of it with the Atlantis thing and stuff, haven't we? But
yeah.
Not really like a whole story where it's just like, okay, here's Pertwee going back to ancient Egypt or something like that. That's interesting.
But I think going back to that question from Rebecca, because I was going to ask you this when we got to the end of the classic era anyway, but I think it's a good thing to ask at the 10-year anniversary. Bit more of a general question, wondering throughout your classic Who run so far, what are both of your standout stories that you think are most memorable or best in your opinion? And yeah, so I'm particularly interested to know what your things are so far, because for me, obviously, there are stories that I know well because I've seen them loads of times, but most of this, well, all of this, you're seeing it one time. It's the first time you've seen it and you've watched it once. So I'm really interested to know for you, when you think back right from the beginning of Hartnell through to now, what are the stories that stick in your head, or moments or particular things?
Yeah. Oh, it'd be very hard to pick one, but I think a few that just come to mind, just completely off the top of my head, is like, oh, that really has stayed with me. Mind Robber. Loved that. Very psychological, very meta. That was a lot of fun. I think The Demons still kind of looms large in my mind because I think we both said at the time that whole Wicker Man kind of folk horror aesthetic is something that we quite enjoy kind of being explored in the show, which is why the first part of what was it, 40 yards? I can't remember the exact
73.
number. 73. Some number of yards.
Yeah.
The first part of that episode was stunning in my opinion, and then I don't know if it quite stuck the landing, but yeah, that whole aesthetic of there's something kind of ominous going on in this village with history, is, and the whole maypole thing, and there's just something weirdly scary about these, you know, people dressed up in these kind of parade costumes just in rural Britain. It feels like it kind of has an ancient quality where you're like, these people could literally do anything. I have no idea what these people are about to do. So yeah, Mind Robber, The Demons. I should probably try and think of a Hartnell one that's really stayed with me, because there definitely will have been. But
well, no, I mean, I think it's perfect. You know, it's just the things that pop into your head immediately without thinking about it too much. Yeah, I mean, I think when I just visual things, I think of things like Evil of the Daleks and the Emperor Dalek and the sort of Daleks in this kind of mansion house and things, stuff like that. I think it's not even necessarily stories, although there are great stories, but just things like the relationships between Ian and Barbara and the Doctor and those little things, the way they play out. The sort of Doctor and Jamie and Zoe, those kind of things, I've really enjoyed those. And then similar to you, I think as well, things like the Mind Robber have stood out, Tomb of the Cybermen. I still love The Chase, regardless of...
I was actually thinking of that. Actually, that probably is one of my favourite Hartnell stories, because it's just so much fun, isn't it? It's so much fun.
Yeah. And so I think what I love about the Hartnell, when I think back to the Hartnell thing, what sticks in my mind, again, is not necessarily specific stories or moments so much, but the general feel of it. The feel of kind of almost like you're watching a play, being shot on these little sets, you know, and these kind of, just the effort and time that have gone into those things. There's something about there's something about that black and white era which sticks with me, and just the feel of it, which is different to this. So
totally. Certainly not necessarily sticking in my mind for the best reasons, but the Web Planet, I think, is just one of the highlights of doing this whole experiment for me of watching all of Doctor Who, because before we started watching it, you just said to me, I'm slightly anxious for this next story, because it's not great. But it was so entertaining, wasn't it? I think we had a blast recording reaction, because it's just, by the time you're just looking at the screen and you're seeing all these creatures moving around and this guy in this sleeping bag going I was like, what happened with what is going on, basically?
You just got to roll with it at that stage, haven't you? I think.
Yeah.
There was a question from Kyle Taylor, actually. They did. Carl Taylor said, I also asked what sets or locations from the season you liked to stood out, especially on. Actually, that's right. I did have that down here, actually. So I think for me, the set that really stands out is the jungle in Planet of the Daleks. I think definitely. I think I said at the time, you never feel like they're just back in the same place. They were able to film it from different angles or move some plants around or whatever it was. It was all good. And I think And I think just the variation of, I mean, and then the location at the end of Green Death is, in the Green Death at the end of the season with that kind of Welsh setting in the mine is lovely, lovely. So, so I think that'd be my picks.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'd echo all of that, and also Omega's kind of lair.
One thing, Toss, am I able to share my screen with you?
Oh yeah, hopefully.
Just feel like as this is the last opportunity, can I share screen? Is this going to work?
Do you have a present button?
Can I just share the window? There we go. Is that the best way?
Go for it. See what happens. I'm intrigued.
Oh. Here we go. If I share my screen, so I feel, Thomas, we should, as it's the last chance we get to do it, we need to do a quick whistle-stop tour of the different looks of Joe Grant through this season.
Okay.
Just for those who are concerned about Joe's fashion sense. So, don't know if we can see. Is this coming up?
Let me see.
Can we see this?
Hey.
Are people seeing the Doctor and Joe here?
Let us know in the comments if this is showing your end. I can see it.
Brilliant. So here we go. This is Joe in the Three Doctors. I like to think of this as like the blue Big Bird look, where she's sort of just gone for that kind of Sesame Street style, but in a blue, just to kind of offset that. I think that's quite a strong start to the season. Quite glitz and glam as well. Got a bit of a 1960s feel to me, but maybe it's the 70s. I mean, it's obviously the 70s. Or the 80s for the unit, maybe. But
Paul, can I just say at the outset, I'm going to let you do all the talking here because my knowledge of fashion would fit on the back of a postage stamp.
You mean... Oh, surely not, Thomas. Surely not. Well, you know, fortunately, you're in the presence of a fashion guru. This next shot, here we go. We've got Joe in Carnival of Monsters. This actually, I didn't realise when I brought this up. This is actually from Bradley's Basement website. And I actually grew up with Tim Bradley, who has this Doctor Who website. So do go and have a look if you haven't already. I think this is Joe's, probably the most pedestrian outfit for Joe of the season. But it's, you know, it's absolutely what she needed for a story like this. There's a lot of running around in different settings. So she needed something practical, down to earth. I think this is very sensible. You know.
And sleeve pockets as well, very practical.
Well, exactly, and we'll be thinking
your highlighters there.
Absolutely, and pocket-wise, that's not to the next one. Here, this is the sort of, I think this is the sort of judo chic look for. She either looks like she's about to do some judo, or that she's got out the bath and has put the dressing gown on. You know, she's just lounging around the house, but I quite like it. It's got a casual feel.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that.
A bit of casual judo.
Casual judo. And the Doctor does a bit of Venusian karate, so maybe she's been learning from him. But check out those boots, though. Look at those boots.
Judo chic. That's yeah, those are they like Converse boots?
Well, I was going to say, like they are like Converse boots with like a heel on that as well. That's a platform, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there. So, you know, Joe's pretty much a trendsetter. Here we are in Planet of the Daleks. Going back to pockets, I did notice the pocket here. Very useful. I know sometimes you ladies are a bit put out about the lack of pockets. So Joe's leading the way here. So you can keep something in there. Pop a sonic screwdriver in if you need to hold that there. But it's a little sort of tartan Burberry type number.
Off-centre vertical zip as well. Interesting.
Interesting. So almost, like a flight suit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Asymmetrical. Wes Anderson wouldn't like it, but
no,
you know, can't please everyone.
And sort of rounding off the season here at the end of the Green Death, I feel it's almost kind of going back to where we started, but in white. You know, similar look, the kind of furry bits there. Big parka coat, suitable if you've ever been in Wales. I grew up in Wales. It's cold and it's wet, so you need a coat. Very sensible. She's got some gloves as well. So
the green gloves maybe echoing the story title.
The Green Death. Yes. Maybe we missed. Maybe it was the gloves. Maybe it was the gloves all along. That were the Green Death.
And she doesn't die in it, but it is the death of her kind of, companionship in the show. So
exactly,
it is a green death of sorts, isn't it? Well, Paul, thanks for that insightful presentation. I think you did a sterling job there. I particularly enjoyed Judo Chic as a description.
You should just call me the Gok Wan of the Shallow Proclamation.
Is he still going?
I don't know what Gok Wan. Currently in the where is he now basket. No.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Paul, we've been going for 1 hour 20 minutes. Do we?
I know.
Is there anything else we need to chat about?
No, I don't think so.
We should probably let these good people go to bed.
Absolutely. Just to say though, guys, well, as always, thanks so much for joining us and sticking with us for all the ridiculousness.
10 seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for joining us for tonight and chipping in with all your comments and stuff. It's always good to engage with that. And thanks for just all the comments you put on through the seasons, because you're always full of great information and we enjoy the questions you ask as well and kind of getting involved there. As I said, we'll probably, as the new season Shooting Outwards era is starting in a week or so, we'll probably have a little break from Classic Who while we go through those, probably put out an episode a week as those come out and review them. But we're going to crack on with season 11. We haven't actually started season 11 yet, so we'll hopefully try and get ahead a little bit on that as well. So we've got a few in the bag, because I know once or twice this season, because we had to cancel sometimes recording, I know there was a couple of delays and you didn't get things, so apologies for that. But we'll try and get stuff out, and we'll look forward to joining you again soon in season 11. But obviously, to see what we all make of new Shooting Outwards stuff as well, because that's new to all of us. So yeah,
totally. Yeah, no, thanks so much, guys. It's just been a lot of fun doing this, hasn't it? Like, if you guys weren't watching, we'd basically be talking to ourselves, and
I think we'd probably still be doing it though, wouldn't we? No.
We probably would.
No.
Probably would be. We enjoy recording them. Yeah.
Someone did say though, I think on one of our videos, that actually we are at the halfway point of the classic era.
Oh, wow.
In terms of the actual number of episodes or stories, because things get a bit shorter. So even though we've got 16 seasons, in terms of content, we're around the halfway mark. So,
and that would be like time-wise as well, presumably, because the episodes are all kind of a similar length throughout the classic era.
All stays, basically the same. So, give or take. Yeah.
Well done, man. It's been a privilege. Like we've broken the back of it. We're gonna do this.
Absolutely.
But no, thanks so much everyone for watching. And if you're not in the Discord server already, I imagine most of you are. But feel free to check that out. There we put the link to that in the description of all our videos. And it's just been really fun on there. I'm sorry, I'm not the most active on there. I'm trying to check Discord a bit more actually. Paul's quite active on there, aren't you? But there's loads of stuff kind of popping off in there about various bits of Doctor Who news and trivia, and there's a channel for discussion about the classic era episodes that I haven't seen yet, so you can talk in there without worrying about spoiling it for me, because I don't check that one.
It's just abuse. It's just abuse towards you, Thomas. That's all it is.
Completely justified. Yeah, and then we do have a Patreon as well. From just £2.50 a month, you can get access to all our full commentary tracks and all the bonus stuff we've reacted to. So feel free to check that out if you haven't seen that already. We'll keep uploading stuff there. We'll put the Shooty Gatwa full reactions on there as well as they come out. But thanks so much, guys, and thanks, Paul. It's been great to see you all.
Thanks, mate. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Adios. How do I end this?